Good evening and welcome to the Tibet Center here at 151 West 30th Street, 3rd floor. We'll begin, if you on the website, if you go down to the FAQ section, there are the prayers that we say. We'll start with the prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems, and with the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddha's teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living there together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we hope and wish. The Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once. The Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines the Dharma called profound illumination. And at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, how should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge? And Avalokiteshvara answered, Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form, emptiness is not separate from form, form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors in consciousness are empty. Thus all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing, they are not impure or pure, they neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge, and since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear, they transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future, by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth. For there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed. Tagyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswaha. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. Generate bodhicitta. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Okay, so let's begin by doing a rosary of Om Mani Padme Hum and think of developing the wish to remove all suffering of all sentient beings. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. So, this evening, Annie Bean has come with her new book, The Magical Adventures of the Sixth Dalai Lama, His Life and Loves, by Annie Bean and Robert Thurman. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's probably a lot of hard work.
This is a lot of work.
Good for you.
So,
Kudos.
you said that it's the life of His Holiness the.
It's about, we translated an external biography of Shin Ramkar, the sixth Dalai Lama, which just was an outline of when he was born and who was his the collaboration was him giving me ideas to me to write sort of a fictional story in between, and then I did about 8 years of research on all the different writings by different authors and from different countries, Italians and translators. The Swedish translator Per Sorensen, who did a lot of the Six Dalai Lama's poems, and then I also translated the poems as well. And then Bob and I worked on biography translations with a class at Columbia. And then I started to write scenes. And then Bob kept adding more and more scenes. And that's why the book is so big, because he was like, we should get this part, and there's this part, and we got all these different people. So, yeah.
So the scenes are fiction, or the scenes
The
are...
scenes are historical, but there are parts of it that are fictional, trying to imagine what people were thinking to make them motivated to do certain things. And then we concentrated on trying to understand why the sixth Dalai Lama might have given up his monk's vows and decided to become a layperson. And one of the theories that Bob wanted to try to understand better was a conversation he had had with the 14th Dalai Lama about how it may have been that the sixth Dalai Lama was trying to, instead of have a reincarnated form, have an inherited tradition and give birth to an heir by falling in love.
Because of the weakness in the
In the system of the
between lives,
between lives.
until a young Tulku arrives.
Yes, yeah, so that was a theory that the Dalai Lama, the 14th Dalai Lama, was thinking may have been his reasoning for doing what he did, although it was considered so unheard of and dangerous, because by doing that he may have given all the other countries, Mongolia and China, an opportunity to take over power, which Tibet had at that time.
But who was behind the murder of the sixth Dalai Lama?
Well, there's so many different stories about it, so we left it open-ended that maybe it was Hassan Khan, the Mongolian Khan, who killed him. And there's another theory that he escaped and he became a hidden monk and went off to Mongolia in Alishan. And now there's come out, I guess it was a few years ago, there was a story found by a Tibetan, Mongolian Tibetan, who translated his sixth Dalai Lama's teachings as a hermit somewhere in Mongolia, and it was translated into English by an English historian. So Bob is thinking that we should try to do, a sequel with him. But it's taken so long to get this book to this point, and we discussed a lot about what kind of ending we wanted for the book.
And what is the ending? For those of you who are going to read this book, you can just cover your ears, but for the rest of
For
it.
me, the ending, and the last line in the book is the beginning, because I felt that this Dalai Lama set off the potential to go west, go everywhere by not staying a monk. And it was just some feeling that I kind of had. But while I was writing the book, there were two instances where I actually had dreams of the sixth Dalai Lama. The first one was when Bob suggested that perhaps I should write the first teaching of the young Dalai Lama when he's finally recognized, because he was not recognized until he was 14 years old, because the fifth Dalai Lama is passing away and didn't want the Patala Palace to have construction stopped by his passing, so he said, hide my death. So the sixth was not recognized until he was 14
And
years
that
old.
caused all.
Yeah, so that caused a lot of turmoil. And then because of that, when Bob said, I'd like you to write the first teaching, and I said, I don't know if I'm qualified, and he said, just write it and we'll look and see. And that night, I did a little prayer to the sixth Dalai Lama saying, help me, I don't just want to be accurate. And I had a dream about him, that he came, I was in a tunnel in a cave, and then he I ended up having no trouble writing either of those scenes, which is kind of interesting.
So I'm not clear. You say you wrote his first teaching.
I wrote his first, Bob said, well, he was a Dalai Lama, he was a very good student for a long time. It seemed he did all these studies. Then he must have given the teaching to the public, like all Dalai Lamas gave. So what did he teach? So he said, why don't you think of what, if you're trying to show that you're a teacher and you're
So what did he
being
teach?
So I just had him talk about how he was frightened of being a teacher, and then how that he would, he talked a bit about being compassionate to others. He gave sort of a general teaching about things that he had learned as a 14-year-old, and that there was another teaching where he gave, because he gave a week-long teaching about what is it to be you and I, and pronouns of self and selflessness, just kind of touching upon those things. Those are things he taught, and then whatever I thought I really needed Bob to check, then he would sort of do the following things. But most of it was more like a lojong teaching for his first teaching.
He
Just
must-
mind training.
He must have taught Jaraka, right? Everyone, when they do the mama was, it was on then, right?
Yes, yeah.
So he must have done that.
Well, I didn't write that though. He said, what would someone young might want to say? And so that's what I came from the point of view of a teenager trying to give some kind of teaching for the first teaching. And I really loved his poems because they're very accessible. They're not written in high language.
No,
And they talked about his emotions of falling in love and being jilted and all of these kind of things that people can
the
identify.
rest of us.
Yeah, and yet there's this underlying tone also of someone who knew more about things. And I think for me what was interesting was I wanted to be able to convey to the reader what it's like to be in the presence of a Dalai Lama. That there's some, and I tried to use my first time meeting him in an audience, how I felt, as a way to kind of tackle how other people would feel when they saw him, to see that I could portray him in that way from the outside, coming in and seeing if in that situation I could imagine what it was like when he's responding to seeing people. Suddenly he went from some kid that nobody, was always very sickly and always ignored, to being proclaimed the Dalai Lama. What would you think as a 14-year-old then? It's so different from a little kid.
So what happened? How old was he when he left Tawang? Or
He was around 3 when 3 or 4. He was recognized, but they tried to hide him so no one else would find out. And so he was always at risk of being killed because other factions might get ideas. So they pretended he was some other reincarnation, which made him really upset because he wasn't. He kept wanting to talk about being recognized, and they didn't. The Desi kept it a secret, Desi Sangye Gyatso. But when he finally met Desi Sangye Gyatso, it was clear that from the writings that they really respected each other.
I've been to the place where he set off for central Tibet,
Oh yeah.
and there's a footmark in a stone, and they claim
that's
that's
incredible,
that's where he stepped.
yeah.
So the part of Tibet that the sixth Dalai Lama was born in is now in India, and in whatever it was,
Litan
19.
or something.
Sorry,
He was born in Litan.
No.
Tawang,
Mun Tawang.
Litan is where he said he'd come back.
Right, the dove, the crane or something
Yeah.
supposed to bring.
Yeah.
But he didn't go there. They rerouted him.
No, the seventh Dalai Lama was.
Seventh came back and Litan.
Yeah, and it came back
Mm.
blazing. He was an amazing person.
Yeah. In the sixth, the the other thing that was interesting was we were trying to see if we could get a forward approved by His Holiness, but the office was very leery about doing that. But I did have kind of interesting conversations with Tenzin Tepak about political correctness in writing my preface, because they didn't want to upset the Chinese government, because I wrote that he was born in Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh. And he said, can you please take out any borders of India, because that's a disputed border between China and India. So I said, what about he was born in Tawang, a place in the Himalayas? He said, oh, that's a great solution. So,
You have to be diplomatic.
yeah, but it was interesting, because then I thought there's so many other things to consider when you're writing a book like that, and there's a whole political element that I am a little concerned people might be worried about. But one of the Tibetans at Tibet House that he taught to a young girl at Columbia University, who's now a student from Tibet, and she says the Chinese government is always following those students to see what they're doing. So if a teacher takes them to Tibet House as part of a class, they will leave them alone, but if they go individually, they might get arrested. So, so then he asked, well, what about the sixth Dalai Lama? And the young girl said, oh, they don't care about him. It's only the 14th they're worried about. So because I guess a lot of people think the sixth was a deviant because he gave up his vows. But it was a lot of different political things and other things that happened while writing the book. But I concentrated on writing the story in a way that might make people understand that there's a lot going on then.
And there still is.
Yes,
That
and there's still.
history is like really weird.
Yeah, I just had to see
It's really confusing, and
yeah.
it distracts from the golden message of things.
Yeah.
Anyway, see one Dalai Lama, see one.
So, again, congratulations to
Thank you.
Annie Bean for,
Yes, and I did
Yes.
the little drawings of the Dalai Lamas.
oh really?
Yeah,
This one and,
this one in the back one when he gave his vows.
I smell movie.
I'm so glad it's out because it was 18 years if you vote.
Not on.
Good, yeah.
so, we've been discussing
Speaking of Dalai Lamas.
Ethics for the New Millennium by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And we had reached page 8. Oh,
The eight is Bach, which is lucky.
Ba, that's the name for, what's the name for dominoes? Ba, isn't it Ba as well?
Sounds like Chinese gate also.
Yeah, I think it's the same.
I didn't learn that word.
No, I think it's 8. I think that's the
It
whole,
is 8, but I don't know about dominoes.
I think the word for dominoes is 8.
Okay, that would make sense actually, it's kind of a lucky number.
Ling was big about getting eights in her phone number.
Yeah.
She went nuts. Come on.
And then back to the Dalai Lama.
Let's keep these going.
So, towards the bottom of page 8, Ba. All this is compounded by the contemporary rhetoric of growth and economic development. So let's see where we were.
Modern industrial.
We have, in my view, created a society in which people find it harder and harder to show one another basic affection. In place of the sense of community and belonging, which we find such a reassuring feature of less wealthy and generally rural societies, we find a high degree of loneliness and alienation. Despite the fact that millions live in close proximity to one another, it seems that many people, especially among the old, have no one to talk to but their pets. Modern industrial society often strikes me as being like a huge self-propelled machine. Instead of human beings in charge, each individual is a tiny, insignificant component with no choice but to move when the machine moves. All this is compounded by the contemporary rhetoric of growth and economic development, which greatly reinforces people's tendency towards competitiveness and envy. So, competitiveness and envy being what comes out of growth and economic development. How does competitiveness and envy come out of these things? Do competitiveness and envy necessarily come out of economic development, which great?
Well, if everything is numbers, there's going to be envy in who has more higher number than me. I mean, your work these days looks like how much do you have? So that immediately sets up a hierarchy, and then those on the bottom ain't the one on the top. And that's that, unfortunately.
And with this comes the perceived need to keep up appearances, itself a major source of problems, tension, and unhappiness. So, how do these things come, how do they stem, how do they come out of this growth, economic development?
The growth isn't spiritual growth, right? He's talking in terms of the world, what they mean by growth. I guess, or we could imagine. Better numbers this quarter, guys, you know?
I think it depends on the structure of the company that's planning to do that. I mean, it seems like if you had a boss that only wants you to make more money and try to do and compare and sets up a system where you're always compared to others, of course your appearance is going to be very important, and also your jealousy or envy is going to grow because someone else is always going to be better than you. And if you're on the top, you're always afraid that you're going to go down. But if I have occasionally worked in a place where the person in charge is not like that, and maybe they don't make as much money, but people get along better when you're trying to set up a teamwork thing or an overall goal. But I think that's pretty rare in most of these kind of jobs that are talking about making a lot of money all the time.
And keeping up appearances?
Yes, yeah. Well,
So, keeping up appearances itself a major source of problems. How does keeping up appearances cause problems?
I just remember one of my first jobs, someone said you're supposed to look upscale casual. That's an appearance. I didn't know what that meant. I had to go to a dictionary and try to.
You're not supposed to.
And what did the dictionary say?
Well, it didn't, so I had to look at a fashion magazine to see what it said, and it was like, your clothes are casual but formal looking, and they should make people think you look stylish. And so because you could be neat, but you could look too ordinary or like proper, old-fashioned. So upscale and
modern.
So,
That's funny.
yeah.
It's like Dolly Parton said, it costs a lot to look this cheap.
Yet the psychological and emotional suffering we
Yeah,
find so prevalent in the West is less likely to reflect a cultural shortcoming than an underlying human tendency. In other words, these tendencies are normal. This is not something that is particular to the West. So I'm quite, I sort of feel that these human tendencies, though they may be enhanced due to our modern way of life, the pace of life, etc., I think that, you know, in rural time, in the time of the Buddha, in like the little kingdom that he lived in, I'm sure that there were these same qualities of competitiveness, of envy, of keeping up appearances. I feel that
Afflictions.
yeah.
The afflictions are operating. But this,
I did visit once. I went to I went down the Amazon and arrived in this little village, and they didn't use money. They just exchanged things, and I desperately wanted papaya because we hadn't had fruit along the journey, and I remember wanting to buy it, and there was no sense of money, and the man just gave it to me, and I didn't have anything. I had a Swiss Army knife in my pocket, and I thought, no, I'm going to keep my. I need this. I couldn't quite. He would have chopped down the tree and offered me many, but anyway, it was an interesting predicament, and it was an interesting experience of just living in a society where people shared, exchanged, etc.
didn't your brother try to have a place where everybody spoke informally accompanied?
Oh yes, yes.
He tried that experiment
Well, in
in
Paris,
Paris, the place of appearances.
he felt that in this company, which was a sort of upscale company, instead of speaking in the formal vous voyez, that they would tutoyer each other, and he quickly realized that that didn't work. That hierarchical relationships were integral to the
Deeply
Work.
ingrained, yeah.
mm,
It was the
situation.
language too, right, in French, the formality, the formal and the informals, it would be really hard to break that if you wanted to be informal.
Well, you can be informal, but you're informal within the context of a formal.
Formality.
And if you just remove the formality and try to, then the whole hierarchical system of a company that he was running doesn't work. So that's really what is that hierarchical culture something that evolves within when you go away from rural situations? I sort of feel that it exists in the rural, in South India, you have these little villages, and those little villages are really hierarchical. The caste system is part of it. You have the money lender at the top who has all the money, and people. It's a hierarchical.
Yeah, that made me think of, we were in, I think we were in Bali, and someone invited us to a tooth filing ceremony. And there was a whole system of hierarchy, how you dress to go to it, and a man certain way. And then we had to pay homage to the mothers who were holding it. There's a clear hierarchy, people you have to pay attention to. And everyone was dressed in a certain way. So it does seem ingrained in, if you have a culture, that it's going to happen.
Marriage the same way in these societies? You don't marry X if she's not in, you have to marry within your hierarchical place, right?
So a man can marry someone who's like among Brahmins. I've learned this from Brahmin friends. You have these levels of
Yeah.
Brahmin, 20,
Levels
19,
of
18,
Brahmin.
17,
I see.
16, yeah.
I-
And a 20 rank Brahmin can marry an 18 rank Brahmin woman. But an 18 rank Brahmin man can't marry a 20 rank Brahmin woman.
Ay, ay,
Yes.
ay. That's right. That's a yeah.
So,
Scottish Brahmin.
indeed, I've noticed that similar forms of inner suffering are evident outside the West. In some parts of Southeast Asia, it is observable that prosperity has that as prosperity has increased, traditional belief systems have begun to lose their influence over people. With this, we find a broadly similar manifestation of unease as that established in the West. This suggests that the potential exists in all of us. And in the same way that physical disease reflects its environment, so it is with psychological and emotional suffering. It arises within the context of particular circumstances. So I think that those circumstances can exist anywhere. It's not just as a reflection of a particular level of society. It can within all societies you have such circumstances that arise. Thus, His Holiness here is saying, in southern, undeveloped, or third world countries, we find ailments broadly confined to that part of the world, such as those arising from poor sanitation. By contrast, in urban industrial societies, we see illnesses manifest in ways that are consistent with that environment. So instead of waterborne diseases, we find stress-related diseases. And within Indian modern life, for example, you find more and more stress-related diseases. All this implies that there are strong reasons for supposing a link between our disproportionate emphasis on external progress and the unhappiness, the anxiety, and the lack of contentment of modern society. So, the link between our disproportionate emphasis on external progress, so that's and unhappiness, anxiety, and lack of contentment. So how do you feel about that? So seeking or emphasizing external progress seems to generate unhappiness, anxiety, and a lack of contentment.
The external, what was it?
External progress. So modern society, the external. So you, doctor, are you dealing?
I was gonna say, I think it's maybe less egregious, but I think internal, the desire, striving for internal progress can create just as much sort of dissatisfaction. Maybe not just as much, but
What do you
less-
call internal progress?
Well, for example, like so in my profession, in my craft, I feel a great deal of passion, but it's really intimately intertwined with like a perpetual low-grade frustration in striving to understand better and be better. That to me is separate from, oh, I want to have a more successful business than person X financially. To me, that's more of this sort of striving for external progress or this external comparison. Whereas I might just, yeah, I might have not one other person in my field that I'm thinking about, I'm not necessarily comparing or competing with, but within myself. And so,
And that brings about unhappiness, anxiety.
to a lesser degree, I think for myself, speaking personally, I think when I was younger, I think I was more guilty of the external comparison and competing outside of myself and maybe more susceptible to compare and like envy or jealousy. And I think with age and or whatever subjective degree of minute maturity I've been able to achieve, I think then I think it's much more internal, which is preferable. I think it's way preferable, but nevertheless, is there's times where I'm sort of like I think in my head or distraught is putting it strongly, but for lack of a better word, like distraught, like why don't I know that, understand this concept yet? Why don't I have this down pat? And there's nobody outside of myself I'm comparing to. It's just myself wanting to be better at what I do.
And that brings you anxiety, lack of contentment, or is it
It's strong.
like a
It's
good...
very strong. But yeah, there are mixed emotions about it because it's also something like that I know to be grateful for because it's something that I care about. So there's a gift in it, right? Better than being bored in a mundane job for me.
This may sound like a very gloomy assessment, but unless we acknowledge the extent and character of our problems, we will not be able even to begin to deal with them. So I think that what His Holiness is really referring to are the challenges that come about due to the external competition that we engage in. I think yours is good.
Yeah, it's different. It's different because I experienced the other one in my first career, and it's miserable. This is, but it's preferable.
So acknowledging, coming to understand the character of our problems is the first step to dealing with them. Clearly, a major reason for modern society's devotion to material progress is the very success of science and technology. Now, the wonderful thing about these forms of human endeavor is that they bring immediate satisfaction. So the whole idea is that these scientific developments immediately help us in tangible ways. They're unlike prayer, the results of which are, for the most part, invisible, if indeed prayer works at all. Now, we discussed this out in New Jersey the other day, but and we are impressed by results. But I don't know if you want to discuss this whole notion that prayer, the efficacy of prayer.
Why does he put it out that way? Everything he does is to teach us, but he's probably prodding us to think deeper about.
To not take it for granted. You know, there is this, what is it? Intelligent faith, blind faith is considered
Yeah, no
not,
faith at all.
well, you can have faith in something, but if you establish something to be so, then you can have faith in it. You can have intelligent faith. If you believe in something blindly, that's not very wise faith.
And you could be pushed off that position easily because it's not grounded in.
So
some sort of-
prayer, in order for prayer to have some kind of to simply say, oh, I prayed for something because I believe in prayer. Let's examine the mechanics of prayer. Who does prayer help?
The prayer.
Hmm?
Yourself,
Yeah.
when you pray,
The prayer.
to start with, because it requires some commitment to belief. And you can start and be kind of, I think you can start and be skeptical about prayer, of whether it works or not. But then if you notice a change by making the prayer, then you might believe and have more commitment to it. But I think, I feel like the way I grew up, that my parents were very committed to prayer. And my mother was very skeptical to a certain degree, but she was committed when it worked. And my father had more of a blind prayer for thinking that Buddhism helped him. But then living in the United States, that all came into question of whether you should talk about it or not, because it seemed unstylish. And my mother wanted my dad to give a definition of what Buddhism meant in one sentence, and then she would let us become Buddhists. And he couldn't, so she sent my sister out to find a religion.
What'd you come back with?
She came back with Methodist. My mom said it sounded kind of funny. She would give it a try, and then she went to a Christian Scientist, and a woman in back of her cried the whole time. So my mom said, "That sounds kind of depressing. I don't want to take the kids to that." Then my sister found Episcopalian, and my mom said it sounds too hard to pronounce. And then finally, my mom just kind of gave up on it. And said, okay, well, you guys find out what to do, but just be ethical. But my dad never was able to really explain to her in a way that she felt that we could become Buddhists, which I thought was really interesting. So here I am.
So prayer, as Annie said, the prayer, the person engaging in the prayer, whether it's faith in the prayer or not, engaging in virtuous thoughts, in the wish that so-and-so be free of his or her illness, the wish that so-and-so succeed at whatever, the desire from my place where I don't really have the ability to change the situation, but my wish that that person find happiness and be free of suffering, that virtuous thought, I think, is what contributes to good, to the improvement of the pool of positivity that might affect the poor person who's sick. Now we have to explore how to connect to the poor person who's sick, from me to them. And I think that's more difficult. If I'm related to them, if they've been kind to me in some way, and there's some kind of a karmic link, or you're just contributing to the greater good.
I think you're still to be there for him. And it was a really interesting thing to see how attached I got to wanting him to be well. When they said he's going to have maybe 2 months at most. And how to deal with your emotions that way, of trying to be giving without suddenly realizing you want to cloy them with, like, protecting them in a way that you don't know how to do. I think that's when prayer helped, to just try to trust and believe that you can give love to them and wish them not to suffer the best you can. And then he was also being very generous to me. But I still haven't come to terms with the level of attachment you have when you really love someone. How, at what point is it too much, or when is it okay to be like that? It seemed like there might be a border to that I'm still working on right now.
Well, the attachment aspect of our relationship to others causes us unhappiness.
Yes.
Hence, it's an affliction.
Yeah.
I'm afflicted by that attachment. But to wish that the person whom I might be attached to wish that that person be free of their suffering is virtuous but what I'm asking about is, how does it help the person whom I'm praying for?
I think they definitely sense comfort in knowing that you are there.
Well, what if they're in, Australia?
I think they still sense it. But that's my feeling, is that it goes farther than that when you really care about something. It's not necessarily the geographic mileage that you're sensing.
So, I don't know. I mean, I hear you, but they talk about a karmic link necessary in order for my contribution to actually be
Effective?
to that person. My contribution is effective to me. My contribution is effective to particularly to me. But for it to be effective to the person who is ill.
That's really interesting. I remember once when I was visiting my mom and I asked Chola Rinpoche, I said, I don't know if I can take care of her. I'm supposed to for a week. I'm worried. And he said, oh, don't worry. Just be the good Buddhist you are in your heart. You don't have to tell her anything.
Yes, but that's already your mother, and that's
there's that karmic connection.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this last Wednesday, when someone requests that the monks say prayers for their aunt, the monks have no. The monks say prayers, and the monks who are really following the prayers and listening to themselves as they say these prayers are cultivating virtuous thoughts in the process, so they'll benefit karmically. And it is very possible that their benefit contributes to the world, the universe, whatever, in sort of sending positive waves out to the world. And the person who's requested these prayers has good thoughts, the wish to have these prayers said, sends money to pay for the tea and the food and some offering to all the monks who are saying the prayers, so that he or she benefits by the generosity and by the good thoughts, etc. My concern is with the poor sick person. Now, if the poor sick person is related to the person who's asking that the prayers be said, let's say it's the mother of the person who's having the prayers, then you have the connection that you're talking about, and all of those virtuous thoughts of the person who's sponsoring the prayers contribute to the mother, and through this karmic series of links that that support the monks as they're saying prayers, the mother is benefited. So, in other words, some kind of link is necessary.
Entanglement, they use
Who's
it.
to say there isn't a link?
I'm gonna say,
That,
yeah,
it's just but because you're saying prayers, isn't there a link?
well, you create one.
So, who is to say that you're saying that if I'm praying for the poor people in some war zone that I have no connection to, sure, we've all been each other's mother countless times. There are all sorts of ways in which we are interconnected. What's going on over here? So, yes, we are all interconnected. And when we pray that all sentient beings be free of suffering, we are connected to all sentient beings, and so our good thoughts somehow do contribute. But I think it's important when we are praying to think about that interconnectedness in order for our good thoughts to actually have a connection. If we don't think about that, I think that it's just words. The prayers don't really mean anything. I think that not our mere intention to help all sentient beings, but our considering the ways in which we are interconnected enhances the potency of our good thoughts.
I would agree with that because I think that it's easy when we're saying prayers to kind of get rote and just say it but not really mean it. And but if you are sincere about it, even though you don't know people that you're saying it for, but have the motivation behind it to really try to affect people that you don't know, it seems like it would help.
Like, we are human beings, right? But other than us, there's more spirits, Dharma protectors, or, good or bad, right? But if we have more good thoughts, right, more prayers, the Dharma protectors, they will have more powerful, right? If people think like more negative, then the bad guy will be, stronger than the Dharma protectors or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think we are connected, right?
We're connected to both.
That's why we need more prayers, more good thoughts, positive thoughts. Yeah.
It's not for whom the bell tolls. Remember the poem? Tolls for you. So there is this.
So Tony was asking, what would His Holiness's reason have been to even suggest doubt in the efficacy of prayer? And that doubt that he suggests is really for us to think just along the lines that we are thinking here. And we're impressed by, so prayers, it's not so easy to figure out how they benefit and why. We are impressed by results. What could be more normal? Unfortunately, this devotion encourages us to suppose that the keys to happiness are material well-being on the one hand, and the power conferred by knowledge on the other. So here His Holiness is suggesting that there, in modern society, there are two things that seem to bring about happiness: material well-being and knowledge, the power that comes from knowledge. Now, that second one is rather interesting. Do you understand it? The whole idea that we derive happiness from not just physical well-being, but from knowledge of how things work, knowledge of, well, what would knowledge mean?
Knowledge of true nature of things, real. Otherwise, material goods won't help. Material happiness is fragile. The other is stronger, I would think. And
So
I
he
would
goes
say
on.
knowledge of spiritual knowledge. If you want.
So
Make it-
while it is obvious to anyone who gives this mature thought that the former, that is to say, material well-being, cannot bring us happiness by itself, it is perhaps less apparent that the latter, which is the power confirmed by knowledge, cannot bring about happiness. But the fact is, knowledge alone cannot provide the happiness that springs from inner development, that is not reliant on external factors. Indeed, though our very detailed and specific knowledge of external phenomena is an immense achievement, the urge to reduce, to narrow down in pursuit of it, far from bringing us happiness, can actually be dangerous. It can cause us to lose touch with the wider reality of human experience, and in particular, our dependence on others. So here, it's this human experience and the dependence on others that His Holiness is suggesting is the source of true happiness, while these other external factors are not. Well,
Can't disagree.
yeah, but I mean, we can't disagree, but we have to acknowledge that the whole of our modern society is pushing us to believe that it is external phenomena and security that provides us with true
It's not
happiness.
working. Suicides are up. Drug, not addiction, the drug reliance is up. Therapists in business doing very well. Thank you.
So,
Something's wrong.
that's a nice place to end.
Uh-oh. Yeah, it might be sick.
Diane Ladd, Donna Jean Godshow, Alan Ludwig, skeleton. This, we're praying for the skeleton?
Yes. Definitely. I see.
Okay,
Looks like we learned nothing.
so we don't know whether our prayers are going to be effective, help others, but they will help us, and they will help those around us. And if we think about our interconnectedness, and if we truly wish the recitation of the sutra, the recollection of the Noble Three Jewels, the sutra where we recollect the qualities of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, if we really wish this to bless, to benefit others, then we are contributing to some kind of virtue that definitely affects the universe. Okay. I prostrate to the omniscient one, the Buddha, the Bhagavad, the Tathagata, Arhat, Samyak Sambuddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha Bhagavad. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of Nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He is not stained by the realm of desire. He is not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in Nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavad. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavad teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one farther. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma which is taught by the Bhagavad is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy.
Puts an end to the journey.
As for the Sangha of the great Jnana, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joined palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are filled with glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity.
Who possesses great kindness,
The omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata, pure the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. We read the 8 verses for training the mind. With the determination to accomplish the highest welfare of all sentient beings, who surpass even a wish-granting jewel, I will learn to hold them supremely dear. Whenever I associate with others, I will learn to think of myself as the lowest amongst all, and respectfully hold others to be supreme from the very depths of my heart. In all actions I will learn to search into my mind, and as soon as a disturbing emotion arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly face and avert it.
I will learn to cherish ill-natured beings and those oppressed by strong misdeeds and sufferings,
as if I had found a precious treasure difficult to find. When others out of jealousy treat me badly, with abuse, slander, and so on,
I will learn to take all loss and offer the victory to them.
when one whom I have benefited with great hope unreasonably hurts me very badly,
I will learn to view that person as an excellent spiritual guide. In short, I will learn to offer to everyone without exception all help and happiness directly and indirectly, and respectfully take upon myself all harm and suffering of mine others. I will learn to keep all these practices undefiled by the stains of the eight worldly concerns,
and by understanding all phenomena as like illusions, be released from the bondage of attachment. Now a prayer for a swift return. Exalt
the wisdom of all things is gathered in a drop.
sole refuge manifest in the form of the one wearing saffron rose, Guru Lalsan Tuan Gurjachan. Please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast waves of aspirational prayers, Lord of speech of Victor Loson's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. The holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed great awakening.
Yet you have withdrawn the activities of the form body that serves the welfare of others.
Is that the way of the supreme among beings, the Bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you till cyclic existence end, to abundantly to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by Bodhicitta
drawn by 7 steeds.
having reached the far limits
of
of
scholarship, religious life, and goodness,
please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings, and wish-fulfilling jewel, return as the glory of Losang Tengay, magnificent truth of the 3 precious jewels, Mahakala, Karmayama, and Srimati Devi, and the ocean of Dharma protectors. May you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh, moonlight face.
Thank you very much. Forcing us to think.
Hmm?
You're forcing us to think instead of daydreaming.